Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual, and you know how I'm going to start the show. I'm going to start by saying, folks, in order for us to move this country forward, in order for us to go ahead and make sure that the progressive values get out there, in order for us to get all this stuff done, what we need more than anything out of you is for you to share these programs that are going to give you the alternative, true point of view, one that is not influenced by the corporatocracy, one that is not influenced by the oligarchy, the plutocracy, and all those people that are intent. They are intent in defining the narrative. They're intent in defining the message to ensure that you continue either confused, uneducated, or willfully ignorant. The only way we get around that is for us to start sharing our found truths that are backed by data, truths that are backed by fact, truths that are backed by the reality that we see and not the reality others would like to impose on us. Folks, this is important stuff. Right now, as it is in our country, right now, as it is with the politics that is going on, we have a severe issue. And that severe issue right now is apathy. Apathy. Why do we have apathy? We have apathy because people think they don't matter. They think their vote doesn't matter. Yesterday on the KPFT show, we had a millennial on that was urging somebody past baby boom age to urge their folks to go out and vote. After all, you really matter. Your vote really matter. No matter what they tell you, it is still one person, one vote. Yes, we have gerrymandered districts for the House, but there's no gerrymandering that can stop the Senate. There's no gerrymandering that can stop the presidency. Remember that. Gerrymandering only applies in districts that elects congresspersons or whatever. So where a lot of people don't vote in certain districts because they say my vote doesn't matter. Your vote may matter less in your district, but your vote may be extraordinarily important for the state. It would be extraordinarily important for the federal offices, meaning senators, president, etc. It matters. It may not matter again as local as you think. But folks, you can only gerrymander districts. You cannot gerrymander senates. You cannot gerrymander the presidency. You cannot gerrymander the governorship. You cannot gerrymander the railroad commission or any of those particular places. So those people who vote and say, who don't go to vote because they live in what is supposedly safe districts, they'll say, well, my vote doesn't matter anyway, so I'm not going to vote. It does matter because you're not only voting in your district. You're voting all throughout the country. You're voting for things that are not gerrymandered, where the totality of the vote is important and not localized. I wish when we're talking gerrymandering, more of our leaders or leadership on the progressive side, meaning most of the Democrats, because the progressives are doing their job, would go out there and tell folks, hey, forget about gerrymandering. Just go out there and vote in large numbers. Large numbers themselves mitigate gerrymandering. Why? Because the people who vote the least are the ones that gerrymandering affected. So therefore, let me give an example. I'm in District 2 here in Texas. I know you guys are all over the country. But in District 2 in Texas, this district was gerrymandered assuming they knew how the voting population behaves. In other words, they looked at all the voter data and they see how people vote. And based on how people vote, they draw those districts. But you know what happens in that 10 years? In that 10 years, people move out, move in, etc. And if you activate your base, if you activate a larger voting block, that is more synonymous with that county. Let's look at District 2. District 2 has a whole lot more people that are amenable to the progressive message than anyone else would think. So therefore, we've always elected Ted Poe. Why? Because of the way the voting occurred in this district. It's not that this district is a conservative district. What makes this district conservative are those who vote. If we get more, if we activate more people, if we empower more people, if we show people more so that, yes, it really will matter, they will vote. But we have to make it the truth for them. We have to bring the issues to them. We have to have the party coming out. I went to a meeting we brought in Republicans and Democrats to have a sit-down powwow sort of a civil discussion here in Kingwood a few weeks ago, actually about a couple months ago. And in talking to, there was one lady who came up to me and she said, I've been contacting the party. I've been telling the party, you come to Spring, you come to Kingwood, you come to all these places and ask for money. But when it comes to bringing your leadership out here, when it comes to, we give kudos to a few of the judges that come out here. We give kudos to some of those who come and they speak at the different organizations because they are earning your vote. They're wanting your vote. But for the most part, we have a whole lot of Democrats. They stay inside the loop or just outside the loop or on the East End or whatever, and they forget completely about the other parts of Harris County. They forget completely about all these pockets that are solid with progressives who are just saying, tell us what you are going to do for us. And then you'll earn, not get our vote, you will earn our vote. When the party starts doing that, but remember what I've always told you, there's not a hell of a lot of difference between the establishment of both parties, because what they're really doing is they're really two rails going in the same direction. And what we need, as I've been saying for a long time, is what we need more than anything else, my friends. What we need more than anything else, once and for all, we need the catharsis. We need a catharsis of the parties. We need a catharsis where we have either you come the way that the people want you to do it, or you get a derailment. And yes, a derailment is going to be painful. But the only change can occur when those people that believe they're in power are extricated from power. Millennials, where are you? I want you to show up and get rid of the folks my age. Get rid of the folks, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers. It is time for you to take over. They've told, as I was speaking to one of the millennials on our show yesterday, I said, we've done you wrong. We've taken so much from you. We have done you wrong. We went to school on the GI Bill. We went to school on Pell Grants. We went to school on cheap tuition. We went to school on all these things. When our states used to collect taxes appropriately to support the investment in people. And yes, how did America invest in the baby boomers? And how did America invest in the older Gen Xers? And when it was time for them to invest, where were they? They bought into Reaganomics. They bought into supply side economics. They bought into my taxes are too high. They bought into the selfishness of the Ayn Randian policies with good social values, is what they said. At least we're socially liberal. At least we're socially progressive. But when it comes, don't spend my money. Don't give my money to those other folk, even though they were the beneficiaries of that money. So what is the show going to be about today? Today, the title of the show, Democrats' lack of message could allow a fraudulent economy to beat them. And don't you dare not believe that the economy that we're looking at right now is a fraudulent economy. I repeat, a fraudulent economy in many more ways than one. And it is something that Democrats, again, when we go into the election, the unemployment rate is going to be very, very low. Yes, it's going to be low. In the way they measure it, it's going to be very low. But there's more to that story, and the story needs to be, if you want to win, we have to remember the subtitle of the show is Democrats continue to ease on into the 2018 midterms undeterred by an economic fraud that says more than it's the economy stupid. It is always going to be the economy stupid. Because when we have money, when we're working, for all practical purposes, we are happy. And all our prejudices and all our hates and all of that kind of take the back seat. Yeah, it's still there, but it takes the back seat. So the question is, my dear friends, what are you going to do? What is the progressive movement going to do? Well, the progressive movement has been doing a great job. What is a party going to do? Because I tell you what, while on TV, all the plutocrats and the oligarchs and the Republicans are singing high praises to this great economy, nobody's out there specifying in detail why it is a fraud. And that is what we have to really get to, why it is a fraud. And here's the saddest part about it, because the way it's being set up right now, it's a double whammy. Let's assume that we get sort of a blue wave and the Democrats somehow take over. Because we're running on an economic fraud when we take over, given that we haven't already told Americans that, yes, this is an economic fraud that's going to blow up. And when we are in office and it blows up, we're going to have to clean it up. They're not preparing America for any of that. But so let's assume there are two options. Two outcomes. One is that Democrats squeak and they win the House and they win the Senate. And you know what happens? The economy will be blowing up because the deficits are going to be going through the roof. Already we had 1 month with over $200 billion in deficit. So it is going to crater. We cannot stay here. Folks, if you're just joining, please share the program. It is so important that you share the truth. You're hearing a whole lot of misinformation on TV about our economy right now. You're hearing there's a whole lot of dereliction of duty from the Democrats right now that are not laying the tables for exactly what is going to be occurring in the economy going forward. And if this is not told, whether win or lose in November, you will lose in 2020. And the reason why is we are in for the crater, and we need to prepare Americans for a crater that is based on the economic fraud, the tax cut scam, and much more. But we're not doing that. Well, politics done right, and others, TYT, and others are doing it. But many are not doing that, and it's something that we have to do. So I gave you the subtitle of the show. So anyhow, early this morning, I read a piece on the CNBC website that should give Democrats pause, titled the following: "The May jobs report is great news for everyone, except Democrats running for office." Folks, if you're just joining us, please share the program. Let's make sure that others have the wherewithal to get the truth and not fall for the trap that is going to do one of two things: suppress the economy, suppress the vote, because, if the economy is doing all that well, we don't have to have the existential threat of Trump as president anymore. And remember, do not fail to remember, Trump is continues to be an existential threat to the United States of America. This is true only because, what is true? The Democrats not liking what they get in the numbers. This is true only because the Democrats, in their dereliction of duty, have refused to paint the current path of the economy as the fraud that it is. It is important that Americans understand the post-Obama trajectory that Trump benefited from, but most importantly, the train wreck that said launching pad in concert with the tax cut scam will effect on Americans. That is so important. That is very, very important. You don't do that whether you win or lose in November. What happens in 2019? Folks, look, this is some serious stuff. Anyhow, though, before I get to the blog of the week, which discusses some of this, let's give you a little bit of quick news that I found a bit interesting today. A little bit of interesting news from The Independent. The Visa payment system has crashed, leaving some people unable to buy things or complete transactions. Even shoppers not using Visa had been unable to make purchases because the network provides payment systems for a range of shops and financial institutions. Customers have reported arriving at tills to have their cards decline. Retailers say they have been left unable to take payments in shops, bars, and other outlets, forcing them to resort to only taking cash or not making sales at all. Wow. that is a warning of when you have a centralized accounting or a centralized transaction-based system, that one failure can create such havoc. You kind of wonder, why is this stuff not decentralized with the technologies that we have today that would mitigate any one loss of any one node bringing the system to a crawl? That is something that shouldn't occur. Folks, if you're just joining us, please go ahead and make sure to give us a call, or rather to share the program. And please also remember that this is a call-in show. Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Share the program, share the program, share the program. Okay. Next, from Raw Story, and let me give a little caveat with this. This is some conjecture based after some lawyers, professionals in the business spoke. But I thought it is interesting. One of the things that I've been saying is I don't talk about Russia, Trump, Stormy Daniels, and all of that a whole lot, because I think it is pointless. All we have right now is speculations and all of that. But this is one speculations I would like to give to folks just so that they can take it, smoke it, and then forget about talking about Stormy Daniels or Russia or collusion or embezzlement, all that good stuff, till the report comes out. Why am I saying this? Because, folks, we have much more important things to discuss, as we are discussing today on the economy. Folks, if you're just joining us, please share the program, whether it's be Twitter, your page, your wall, Tumblr, and everything else. Instagram, everything else. Okay. Berkeley, California, from Raw Story. Berkeley, California attorney Alexander Stern released a bombshell report on Friday that suggests President Donald Trump may be under a sealed indictment without even knowing. The report gathered 8 leading criminal law professors across the country. The Department of Justice has argued that indicting a President Trump would distract him from his presidential duties, but Stern said a sealed indictment could take away that concern. The Department of Justice say prosecuting a sitting president can impermissibly detract him. However, indictments under seal remove this fear. Stern wrote in that report, a sealed indictment could start the process under the radar, thus eliminating the potential distractions that a public indictment would create. If a sealed indictment takes place, President Trump would not face any consequences until after he leaves office. It just sets the process in motion formally. It empowers the courts to have authority over Mr. Trump, so that perhaps if Mr. Mueller is fired or otherwise leaves his post, the judicial branch will have jurisdiction and they are not beholden to Trump. Stern told Raw Story, a sealed indictment would remove the statute of limitations concern. And that is, of course, because the indictment would have been made within the time that the statute of limitation for whatever crime the president would or have committed would have been there. But anyhow, that is for you to smoke, take it, and realize that the president may have all kind of powers to fire, et cetera, but there are workarounds where the president can still be gotten, if you know what I mean. We can still get the president for the crimes that he's committed. And, it's interesting that more than likely the only reasons these crimes are going to come to light is that he became president. Secondly, it is interesting because if you think about it, the president may not want a sealed indictment. He may want an indictment out straight, because he needs, after the indictment comes, he needs to be able to pardon himself, right? Because I don't think anybody else is going to be crazy enough to pardon him. So these are some issues that we need to look at. Like I said, take that one with a grain of salt. It is very important, however, that you take it as to, okay, we know that no matter what happens, the law can work with the president. Now let's go ahead and talk real issues that concern your own personal economy. Your own personal economy. So, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Yes, it's time for the weekly blog post. And the title of the blog post Job growth numbers bad for Democrats because plutocrats drive in the narrative. I just as well could have said job growth numbers bad for Democrats because of their dereliction of duty. You know, job numbers should never be bad. We should always want good job numbers. And we should always want the president to do well where it comes to jobs, because you don't elect the president just on jobs. You elect the president on ethics. You elect the president on very much more. On foreign policy, on domestic policy, on environmental policy, on social justice policies, and all these issues. All issues where so far the president has summarily failed. So, I mean, that the economy is doing well shouldn't ever have been a scare for Democrats, especially if they went ahead and framed it in truth, if they framed it in reality, if they framed it in the way things really are. Folks that are just joining us, please go ahead and share this program on your wall, share this program on your page. Every time I listen to CNBC, and here's the blog of the week. Every time I listen to CNBC, I am made more aware how devoid from reality the titans of finance are of most those living in America. Look, they are even unable to relate their ideology of greed-driven supply and demand to real economic activity, changing their theories to suit the current conditions, because Democrats allow them to spew their inconsistent and incoherent narrative without the necessary pushback or context. That is known, again, as dereliction of duty. The most recent job reports can be spun two ways. One is based on fiction, hyperbole, and economic fraud and inconsistency. The other is based on facts, truth, and reality. The truth and reality are on the side of Democrats, yet they are silent. They are the silent ones as the plutocrats, oligarchs, and their minions appear on TV hyperventilating about the virtues and unmitigated strength of the United States economy. What a fraud. And that is what we're looking at. A big, huge fraud. CNBC starts its article titled, "The May Jobs Report is Great News for Everyone Except Democrats Running for Office." They started as follows. Friday's monthly employment report was great news for anyone looking for a job in America, unless you happen to be a Democrat running for Congress. Among the many, many contentious topics swirling around this year's campaign, none is more important than the perennial issue of employment. Voters who are employed are historically more likely to favor incumbents than those who are out of work. Of course, if something is going well for you, why change it? But going well now does not mean going well in the future. Going well now does not mean the status quo. Going well now does not mean that things are going to stay the same and that your personal economy will be better going forward. It may be better now. What about going forward? What are the things that are lining up to affect your personal economy? And that is where the dereliction of duty is from the Democrats, because they are willfully silent. That poses a major challenge for Democrats in 435 House districts and 35 Senate races who are looking to unseat Republican majorities in both chambers. The economy added roughly 223,000 net new jobs in May, pushing the jobless rate a tick lower to 3.8%, an 18-year low. Okay? The article truthfully tells an unfortunate fact for Trump, though. I mean, it wasn't all like, oh, this is Trump's doing, because here's what they say. Of course, the historic run of employment gains has been underway since the Great Recession ended, well before Republicans took control of Congress and Trump moved into the White House. What they're saying is, okay, hold your horses. This recovery started way before the Republicans took over the House. You remember what happened in 2018? And 2010, or way before Trump became president. This recovery has been going on for a very long time. Then came the claim that Democrats are in trouble with voters. And this is the one that pretty much pisses me off. The labor market is tightening rapidly, and declines in the unemployment rate are likely to continue, but at a slower rate, Ben Herson, an analyst in IHS Market, wrote in a research note. That would make it harder for Democrats to argue that voters need a change in Washington, at least in terms of the most critical pocketbook issue. Really? Remember what I said. You don't only vote for economic issue. It is about the economy, stupid. But existential issues are important as well. In the case of people of color, you need to ensure that the criminal justice system is going to be there for you when you are really attacked or murdered by a police officer who, in general, under this administration and others, have just walked after murdering somebody in cold blood. So you want to have a lot of people are going to vote on that issue. That is what caught Bernie Sanders off guard at Netroots Nation 2015 when we cornered him with Black Lives Matter to force that issue, to force that into the platform, into his platform, and subsequently into the Democratic platform. What about women's rights? What about the rights of the LGBTQ community? You know, there are a whole lot of factions in this country that don't supersede the economy, but are in concert with the economy that people vote for. So really, just get some good economic numbers and the pardon power stays in place. Doesn't work that way. But anyhow, the number of jobs created on a monthly basis during the Obama administration was north of 200,000 per month. Under Donald Trump, that rate is south of 200,000 per month. So as you listen to CNBC had Kramer hyperventilating. I have never seen an economy like this. This is just a great economy. Oh, all these jobs that are out there. We don't have enough people in the country. Oh my God, the economy is killing it. I was wondering, what the hell is he talking about? I remember, and I am not a Clinton fantanista, and I'm not talking Hillary, I'm talking Bill, because he's the one who instituted the DLC, the Democratic Leadership Council, which was nothing more than Republican light, adapting supply side policies, less on steroids than it was under Reagan, but then subsequently came on steroids after George W. Bush. I wrote about that in my book. Actually, I've been doing this show for a long time, and I rarely push my book, and I probably should a little bit more, because this explains a lot about how the economy works and patents and all of that, and how the patents have screwed Americans, and how the drug companies have screwed us, and what we can do to mitigate that. So I'm going to do that one plug here. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. Check out the book. As I see it, it's still relevant today, even under Trump. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And we discuss all of that in the book and explain how the economy works, etc., etc., etc. It's worth a read. You can get it on e-copy, or you can get it otherwise. If you're a subscriber to Politics Done Right, in fact, I'll do that after I'm done with the blog of the week. But if you're a subscriber of Politics Done Right, you can get a free e-copy. And for those who are subscribers right now, we are setting up the page. We finally have some software in that allows us to do the appropriate discrimination. Hi, Deborah Cole, welcome aboard. Hi, Michael Rednan, welcome aboard. And for all of those that I've met so far, Daniel Ledo, my regular conservative, welcome aboard. Rednan, welcome aboard, my regular liberal. Okay, let me continue with the blog of the week. Really, the number of jobs created on a monthly basis during the Obama administration was north of 200,000 per month. Under Donald Trump, that rate is under 200,000 per month. Yet, you listen to the plutocratic network, you would have a tendency to believe that under Donald Trump, all these great things that didn't happen before are somehow happening. The reality is Donald Trump is currently underperforming Barack Obama. And anybody in business, anybody who knows economics knows that. So, folks, don't be fooled by the top line. Folks, if you're just coming in, please make sure to share the program on your wall, share the program on your page, because that is the only way we are going to get the truth out to Americans. Right now, what you're hearing on the mainstream media, and whether it's the liberal media or the conservative media, you're not hearing all the facts, so you're simply not hearing the truth. Anyhow, likewise, the talking heads at CNBC continue to give misinformation and outcomes not applicable to the economic theory on a station that should be all about the way the economy functions. These guys are supposed to know how economics work. They're supposed to know at least Economics 101. But unfortunately, you watch the programs and it's immediately evident that these guys are just changing what they're saying based on the economy that we have today. So, here it goes. If unemployment is really low, remember they're saying unemployment is extraordinarily low. If unemployment is really low, why aren't wages going up substantially? Remember that thing called supply and demand? If I own a McDonald's and you own a Burger King, and there are not a whole lot of people going around to hire, I need to get fast food workers. If I need fast food workers and I don't have people applying because the job market is saturated, we're near full employment, I'm going to go over and talk to some of those folks walking out of McDonald's, and I'm going to say, hey, McDonald's employee, how much are you making? Oh, I'm making $7.50 an hour. I tell you what, I'll give you $10 an hour. Will you leave McDonald's and come and work for me? Okay. That's what's called wage growth. And it occurs because there are not enough people to cover the employment necessities of these different corporations. Now, every month we get a new message. Oh, wait a minute. Employment is through the roof and we have a whole lot of jobs. Assuming that is true. And I don't want to get into the mode that we were in under Obama, where Trump was questioning these numbers. But with Trump, it is always legitimate to question everything because he lies like no one else. He tries to control the executive like no one else. He imposes his views, his values, and his push into the executive, which makes one ask, is he putting or is he pressuring folks on the inside as well? I don't know. But there's one thing I do know is economic theory. And assuming that employment is as low as it is, you cannot have employment this low with companies looking for folk and not increasing wages because it does not compute. Every employer who has to have employees is going to go scavenge for employees if people just aren't walking in. And we don't see that happening. And at the same time, well, we'll talk about the other one next. If we do not have enough workers, why are record numbers of potential workers remaining on the sidelines? That's the other thing that came out in the report. The report said that more than ever, more people are just saying, I ain't looking for a job. Why? If the market is so strong, are these all baby boomers who are retired? Meh, some are. That's why the utilization rate at times are very low, because you have a whole lot of baby boomers and others that they're just out of the market. And they're out of the market by choice, so they're not counted as employable, so therefore they're not part of the whatever, I don't remember what kind of employment you call that. So there are externalities out there that makes that number high. I imagine Trump is going to want to tout that now, while under the Obama administration, he claimed that, hey, people are not working, they're just on welfare. No, that's not the case. Many of them simply can't work. Many of them won't work. Some of them don't want to work. But they're surviving. So that makes these numbers a bit dubious as well. Now, why isn't the business sector forcing the president to change his tune on immigration if the job market is really as tight as it is? You don't start expelling people who have jobs because the economy is doing great. You're telling me you're at 3.8% unemployment. You're telling me that all these 10 million undocumented workers are working, but somehow you want to have a policy to deport these people when you're claiming there are not enough jobs, enough people to cover the jobs in America. It makes no sense. You have to ask yourself then the validity, the veracity of the numbers that you're getting. Because if you have no inflation, I'm going to read something a little bit. Let's finish the blog of the week. And it goes as follows. It is clear whose side the titans of finance are on when Kramer rejoices for a supposedly strong growth market with limited wage growth. Good for business. You ever had wage growth and inflation low? Kramer said as he was exalting the great economy. And you have tremendous job growth. That's what the stock market wants. Low wages, low inflation, and I have some typos in here. I had to type this up real quick before the show, but low wages, low unemployment. That's what the stock market wants. Forget about people. Forget about a living wage. Forget about all these things. That's what the market wants. The market wants to pay you as little as possible. It wants to keep inflation as low as possible. Well, if they're paying you as little as possible, you can't buy as much. If you can't buy as much, there's no pressure on the products that you would normally buy. And pressure on products that you would normally buy is what's called inflation. So there's a two-edged sword there, buddies. We have a system that is pretty damn evil. And it's something we need to talk about. But before we go any further, this is time for my ask, and it came more than 36 minutes into the show. And it goes as follows. Folks, this is a progressive show. What we ask for is your support. Please go to Patreon, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and become a subscriber. Subscribers will ultimately have select pages on our website. We're working on the tools right now to discriminate those areas on the site for those of you who become subscribers that are going to be that they'll be providing all the goodies that we speak about on the subscriber page. Last thing that I'm adding to that as well is the new book that I'm coming out with. I'm going to start writing chapters by chapters, and as chapters are released, it will be in that section that is for our great subscribers. All you guys that see the value in supporting a progressive show that is out there to tell the truth, and it's out there to mitigate the bad information, the misinformation, the mistrust, and all of that you're getting on mainstream media, both on the left side, supposedly on the left side. I don't think there is really any left-wing media anymore. MSNBC used to be, but right now just concentrated on Russia and not economic issues that affect your personal economy. I don't know what gives. You check out tonight. Today was a big news day with respect to the economy. We had a report that says that employment is, we are close to high employment, but at the same time, we give the information that doesn't make any sense. We don't want immigration, which assuming that we need more people because we're at full employment doesn't make any sense. At the same time, the utilization rate is very, very low, which means a whole lot of people are staying on the sideline, even though we have supposedly a whole lot of jobs to provide. And at the same time, wages refuse to go up, and they're telling us, oh, wages are not going up. It does not compute. It does not compute the accuracy. Yes, people are on part-time jobs. We have to look at the truth. We have to look at what's going on. If you have Bayer and all these other corporations paying the media for their advertising, it is not in their interest to come out and exactly explain to you why the laws of supply and demand have failed to work in our current economy. I mean, actually, it does work, right? Supply and demand seem to be working as, in fact, sort of in a bad way. You think about it. Everything else is going up. Your healthcare is going up. Things that matter to the corporatocracy, those prices are going up. Your wages just aren't. You have to ask yourself the difficult questions. You have to ask yourself why the mainstream media is not telling you this, why they're not giving you the reasons why. And we know the reasons. The reasons are commonsensical, folks. The reasons are commonsensical. And unless we are honest, unless the politicians, specifically on the progressive side, the Democrats, are honest, they're going to lose it in November, because Americans are watching TV and they're hearing how great the economy is. Even if they're not seeing it in their own personal economy, they see that it's doing well, and it just may trickle down to them. That's what they see. But we have to tell the truth. It ain't trickling to you, because most of it, we're looking at a whole lot of smoke and mirrors. And unless we realize that we're looking at a whole lot of smoke and mirrors, no changes are going to be made. We need to have people out there. We need to have programs out there who are willing to tell you the truth, and then beg for you to go ahead and share this stuff so that people will know. Let me tell you how the Republicans work, right? Right now you have Politics Done Right saying, look, we need you to go to patreon.com/politics done right and, become a subscriber. It's next to nothing to subscribe to Politics Done Right, to support a program that is out there trying to tell truth to power, trying to tell truth to the population at large. That's what we're trying to do. But over here in Kingwood and other places, we have the Republican Party and the right wing run by the Kochs and others. They're out there throwing money out, throwing money to misinform, throwing money to create a third narrative, throwing money out to have all these shows just like Politics Done Right, but going directly through their emails. Going directly through their emails to select people that they continue to indoctrinate. Our only alternative is what we're doing here at Politics Done Right. TYT, the TYT and the Majority Report and other progressive folks that are doing this on the cheap but are trying to penetrate a market. In my case, just over 100,000 folks that are in our network here. But the only way we truly make a difference is if not only we support our progressive means of information, we support people out there doing this job. It has to be more than that. And sharing what we do. In fact, if you're just coming on to the show right now, I ask you to share the program so that other people can be made aware of these things that this information they're not getting in the aggregate on TV. The only way we're going to do it, folks. The only way. So please go to Patreon, patreon.com/politics done right. Patreon.com/politics done right. Folks, this is a call-in show. I would love to hear from any one of you who want to call in and make the point about the economy, or even if you don't want to make the point about the economy, if you want to change the subject, if you want to talk about something else, feel free to call in. There is one particular member of Politics Done Right. He's a subscriber. I want to read a note from him a little bit later. Actually, let me see if I can find it right now, because what I love about what he had to say, it had to do with false equivalences, and I want to read his note because bear with me as I pull it up. I should have had it ready, but you know how things go. I was barely ready for the show today because there was so much happening. All right, let me see if I can go to my inbox and see if it's there in the inbox. I think that's where he sent the message. But folks, again, this is a call-in show. You can give us a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I want to read this stuff about false equivalency, and I got it from Matthew Tiemann, and this is what he said. Hello, Egberto. I know it isn't as important as economic issues, but wanted to make sure I brought up the Samantha Bee issue before Tuesday's show. I know false equivalencies have been going on for a long time, but as someone who has only in the last several years started to notice them, they blow my mind. I know exactly what you're talking about, Matthew. To be clear, I don't like the phrasing be used about Ivanka, but to me it is very different if I, as a man, use that word to describe a woman than if a woman used it against another woman. Also, the obvious context of the monologue was about Ivanka's action and not targeting her because she was a woman. Criticizing someone because their actions is never the same as bashing them over their race, gender, disabilities, things out of our control. But all that has been spewed forth since Roseanne got fired is the hypocrisy on the left. I know, there is a general disconnect when it comes to to racism. But seeing things like Mr. Hill's family in Florida getting 4 cents for his death should be eye-opening to how far we have to go. I get discouraged by it, and I'm just a white dude. I can't imagine going through as a person of color. Great prose, Matthew. Thank you for those words. And not only thank you for those words were very, very insightful. And I think folks ought to, digest that, reacquaint yourself with some of the things he's talking about. But false equivalencies are something that we ought to fight, and something that we ought to fight not yesterday, not tomorrow, but false equivalencies are things that we have to fight now. Let me first go ahead and say hi to our folks online. We have Michael Rudnin. Thank you so kindly for being here. Bruce Pilar, thank you so kindly for being here. Michael Dean Newton, welcome aboard. Let's see, who am I missing? Daniel Ledo, of course, welcome aboard, my friend. Let's see, who else? Sharon McFarlane, welcome aboard. Deborah Cole, welcome aboard. To everybody that I miss, welcome aboard as well. Okay, let's talk about what you want to talk about. Politicians like to talk about job growth. I'd rather have them talk about good paying jobs. Absolutely true, Rednan. Stock market is an indication of how well the wealthy are doing. Absolutely so. They try to make it look like it's not most of the wealthy by saying, oh yeah, but a lot of your retirements are in the stock market. Ask how many Americans actually have a retirement anymore. Very, very few in the aggregate. Okay. Michael Rudden, as it comes to the stock market, I think there's a huge bubble there now. I agree with that. The stock market is up 300% in just 8 years. The stock. Look, I believe in free enterprise. I don't believe in capitalism as practiced here in the United States, because I think by definition this is what happens. What we have with the markets and stocks is nothing more than legalized gambling. Okay, but we are so entrenched in what we were taught that we don't see it that way. We don't see this as legalized gambling. We see it as something worth having. We see it as something that is, oh my God, this is the best thing for an economy or whatever. No, this is gambling. There's no real association between the price of a stock and the value of a company. Don't ever let them fool you about EBITDA and all these types of things. They are nonsensical. There is no correlation, really, between the price of a stock and the value of a company. Let me give a good example. If Google is worth several $1 billion, if Google were to go kaput, there's not enough assets out there to cover what the valuation of those stocks are. And they can say, well, Google has value in the things that it creates. Really? There's nothing Google creates that if Google dies tomorrow would not be taken up by another company yesterday. And that's just a fact. The same thing with Amazon. All these companies, yes, there are laws that protect them in holding on to that sort of a monopoly power that they have. But the reality is that they die tomorrow and life goes on. We just have an economic structure that keeps them alive for no good reason, just because Bezos was able to sell a hell of a lot of product by a hell of a lot of people in an aggregated way. Does he really deserve to be the richest person in the world? Absolutely not. I won't even ask it, but absolutely not. Okay, Bruce Pollard. I'm here. We have apathy because there is no charismatic Democrat. Is there a Republican alternative? I don't think so. But, I want us to stop voting on charisma. I want us to start voting on what people say they're going to do and ultimately what they go into office and do. I am tired of charisma. President Obama was a charismatic guy, a charismatic president. When Bernie Sanders decided to call President Obama a charismatic leader, he was accused of somehow having racial connotations because they called him a charismatic leader. Ridiculous. Barack Obama was a charismatic leader. Barack Obama was a very good progressive. Barack Obama was changed by the force, by the gravity of the presidency and a party that has no desire in being derailed into supporting what the real people of America want. And that's the truth. We don't need to idolize folks. Barack Obama was a great president. He got things done that no other probably could have done because of his wherewithal, because of his charisma, because of how his intellect, of course, mostly his intellect, and how he could work with people. But make no mistake, the force of the presidency, because of the people we had surrounding him, because of the people we elected to work with him, was a very, very deficient thing. And in so doing, made a large part of his presidency, where it comes to the middle class, deficient. That is the truth. That is the truth. It could have been a whole lot better. But, and this, a lot of that in the first 2 years, I don't want anybody blaming on Republicans. The Democrats need to hold the bag on that, because they decided that they were going to fight as Republican moderates instead of fighting as progressives, which had they done that, we would have had the right type of health care. Had they done that, Americans would have been seeing good health care prices, and the Democratic Party would have owned entire America for a whole generation or more, because they, just like they gave Social Security, just like they gave these bastions of social engineering to America that moved people forward, that made them better, that made their lives better. That is what they would have been known on. Instead, now it looks at healthcare as a boondoggle yet again. And it didn't have to be had they been bold. Had many of us, and many of us activists, we have to accept the guilt. We refused to hit Obama. We refused to hit him. Come on, he was the first black president, and the right was doing enough damage. We didn't want to damage him anymore. But I tell you what, in hindsight, we were wrong, because the right was always going to be damaging him. Why not get things moving forward? 646-716-5812. If you want to add something, we still have a few minutes that we can take some calls. 646-716-5812. Okay, let's see. Democrats are already seeing progressive primary challengers. Yes, they are. Look at New York and the governorship in New York. I am interested to see what happens in New York. Is the base, the real progressive base of the Democratic Party in Nueva York, going to come out? If so, I tell you what, the governor in New York is in trouble. In fact, you know he is in trouble when the leader of the Democratic Party, the chairman of the Democratic Party, went against protocol to endorse him, something that is never done. All right, let's see. Michael Redden, Adam ruins everything. Covered why the unemployment rate is flawed. Incorrectly assessed. It doesn't measure people who are underemployed, who want full-time but can only get a part-time job. Exactly. And Ledo retorts, now you are concerned about deficits? Where were you for 8 years under Obama? Obama's deficits should, first of all, Obama really improved on the budget. Again, that is where we have to look at reality, right? We also have to look at things like the healthcare bill. The healthcare bill is as arcane as it is right now because it was revenue neutral. A lot of people do not realize that the healthcare bill was revenue neutral. And also a lot of people don't realize that most of the healthcare bill, including those states that didn't take the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare, must realize that all of it was paid for. In other words, you pay taxes and your taxes are given back to you to pay your healthcare. None of this was taken out of general revenue as some people would want you to believe. It was revenue neutral. Revenue neutral. That's the truth. How often do you hear that mentioned on mainstream media? They still make it look like, oh my God, this big monstrosity of this healthcare bill somehow hurt the deficit. It brought down the deficit. That is the fact. Look it up. Okay, Ledo to Michael. You realize I never clicked through on your links. Well, look, Michael Ledo, I click through on Michael Rudnin's links. And I think you should too, whether you agree with what you think it says or not, because it's yet another point to learn. I go to Red State and I go to Red Slate. I go to these other places so I can hear different points of view. But it's not only about hearing different points of view. It is about going to these places so that sometimes they have it right, believe it or not. Sometimes they have a view that is worth listening to. Again, let's be frank. Let's not all just beat up on each other because we're in the same boat. And when we realize that, things are going to get a hell of a lot better, because the people that we should all be fighting against are the people I'm talking about, the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the establishment of both parties, because they are the wards of the plutocracy. Don't ever forget. If you doubt that, see where they're getting their incomes. See where they're getting their funding. When the funding from these two people are identical, or mostly identical, sans the Koch brothers and a few others, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, Daniel Ledoux, Michael, you're aware that I'm not going to read that. Sean McFarlane, Michael, you're absolutely right. Presenting backup verification for your statement works for anyone not already taken over by Breitbart, Fall, etc. Refusal to pursue truth says a lot about a person's doing. Michael Ledoux, what Sharon said is not a subtle dig. It is a deep dig. In other words, read, brother, read. Don't only read the things that you think you want to hear. Read what other people have to say. That is how you learn. And like I say, I learn from everybody. I learn from conservatives as well. We have to get to that point in life. We have another 3 minutes to go, and I have to make one last pitch, but let me go ahead and do one last scan here. See if I find anything else. Let's see. Democrats continue to ease. Let's see. Democrats continue to, let's see. New York Democratic primary isn't coming until the 26th. California, Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, and New Mexico are coming up on the 5th. Yep. Folks, let me tell you, there's a lot happening. I told you about the jobs report. I tell you about what how Democrats should be talking about this jobs report, how Democrats should be talking about the economy. They have to call the economy out for what it is. It is currently a fraud. It is currently a fraud that is about to be exposed. And the bad thing about it, it's going to be exposed when the next Congress come to pass. All right? They are going to try everything to cloak it into something else. There's going to be, and by the way, if you notice, gas prices are fluctuating. They're starting to come down. Everybody thought it was going to go way up. Assuming you had all this crazy full employment and everybody have the jobs that they want, gas prices would not be coming down. It would not have dropped 3% yesterday. There's a whole lot going on. And don't say it's supply. There's a whole lot going on. But anyhow, folks, if you're still here with us, I want to remind you that this is a progressive show that needs your support. Why do we need your support? Because, again, unlike the other side, unlike the right that gets funded by the Koch brothers and otherwise, do not believe that stuff about the liberals being funded by, I forgot the name of the big liberal funder. Everybody likes to talk about. Come on, Rudnin, I know you know who I'm talking about. The big funder that always funds democratic causes. Well, most people don't see that. The democratic establishment sees that. And the reality is the democratic establishment is not always in sync with the base. So what I ask you to do is please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Be a subscriber of Politics Done Right. If you can't be, please also take that link at patreon.com/politics done right, put it on your page, and ask people to support progressive radio. Ask people to support progressive programming. Ask people to support progressive blogging. With that one link and that one coffee that they'll buy me every so often, not buy me, buy the program every so often. With that one thing that they're in support of the program, what they're doing is they're supporting the progressive values that we support, and they're supporting ensuring that others get the message, and doing exactly what a lot of Republicans are doing right now. You don't see a whole lot of stuff on TV what they want to talk about either, but you know where you see it, a lot of it? You see a lot in their private programmings. You see it a lot in their email lists. You see a lot in all these different areas. And we have that as well. Right here at Politics Done Right, we have a damn good email list. We have a darn good social media presence. We have a darn good presence on air, as you know, terrestrial radio as well. And we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to hit every single avenue with this one program to talk to as many people as we can. We even go out into the fields. We go out to D.C., to Portland, to Michigan, to Detroit, all these places where there is a story to tell or where there is work to be done. In fact, I'm going to be going to New Orleans for the Netroots Nation 2018, and also, of course, we have several other things that we do. So please support us at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That's patreon.com/politicsdoneright. If you are watching the video, you can actually click on the link right below the video and go directly there. We need your support. We ask for your support. Folks, this is Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, and guess what? We are, or I should say, guess what? I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.